the 60s Yamaha color bodies at the time. It's easy stuff to done.
Yeah, there wouldn't be many made.
About yourself. Yeah.
I have a process question for you. In the band, obviously so many people to bounce off into different voices. I'd say it's the first song of the new record, Chomp, which starts with a seemingly simple cadence and then expands its territory along throughout that process. Can you talk me through like how a song with that kind of idea would expand into what it becomes?
I think the answer is know thyself. And I know myself, and myself is tangential and complicated.
Okay.
And overly kind of cluttered. Like too many things. Like I'm never like, when I'm writing a song, I'm never like, I just really can't come up with it. It's always just like, I have these 9 ideas and I hate them all. And also I understand that I'm super talented at making something that should be simple overly complicated. So when I say know thyself, what I mean is that I know these things about myself, and my solution now at this point in my life is start with simple material. Because my ability to complicate simple ideas is well established, but my ability to simplify complex ideas is not. Therefore, it's in my best interest to start with simple ideas. So, for example, with this tune, Chunks, I guess, it's like it's just like 4/4 funk groove, which is good for me because it won't end up as a 4/4 funk tune. I know, you know. So for this tune, it was kind of like an exercise for me in figuring out how. Because if Snarky Puppy plays a 1-chord funk song with a pentatonic melody, it's not Snarky Puppy. It's just a funk band, right? So I was like, what can I do? I mean, if you want to color a little outside of the lines, and you have the bass line that is like it's just that's all it is. Like the whole A section. So what can I do to that to make it, I don't want to say more interesting, because I find 1-chord funk, when played by Parliament, to be very interesting. But to make it a little less, a little outside of the lines. What are my options? Harmony, what, specifically what?
Like you can get that bass line and put an unexpected harmony with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's the opportunity to impose kind of non-diatonic harmony, or diatonic harmony that's a little colorful on it, which I ended up doing definitely in that tune. What else?
You could use those gaps. You could sort of take advantage of those gaps to do some kind of cool response almost with yourself, like.
Yeah, or in another instrument.
Yeah.
As well. So filling up those spaces. What else?
Feel. Could change the feel of the drums or the rhythm behind what you do.
Great. Yeah, he said you can change the feel of the drums or the rhythm behind that thing to make it more interesting. So already we have 3 really wonderful, I would say, ideas on how to make this groove not just become the foundation of a very boring 1-chord funk song. Right? So I'll play you, I have like demos from most tunes on my computer, so maybe I'll just play you like a bit of the demo for this so we can kind of isolate the different things that, and actually, I can play you, because I came up with the groove during a sound check, like everybody had left the stage and it was only the drummer and I wanted to play Bobby's clavinet, so I did, and that's how this thing came out. I don't know if I can find it. You guys use the voice memos part of your,
Yeah, every day.
Good, yeah. The only thing that I like on my phone. Can I have the original idea? I doubt it. Oh, yeah. You like? No. It's here somewhere, but I'm not going to waste your time while I look for it. Oh, you know what? No, it's here. I know it's here. I really steal so many things from other people. Like half of my voice notes are like the name of another artist or something. Is it here? Okay, I'll just play you the demo. So I do demos in Logic. What do you guys use? Logic, GarageBand.
Cubase.
Cubase, nice. Oh, maybe this is it. Yeah. So that's just the drummer and I. That's just like us at soundcheck, messing around. That's the first time that I play that stuff. And then I made a demo. I wrote the tune, made a demo. Hey, how are you? Love that MIDI clap. Melody, you know. So I wanted to write a melody that was, because we just have too many complicated tunes, and I was like, I just like simple stuff. I want to write a simple melody and try to get things happening, like the interesting stuff later, develop it later in maybe like a little more subtle way. But I want the first impression of the song, which I think is a very important thing to think about, especially if you guys exist, well, in any genre of music, but especially in jazz, where the intent of the composer has maybe become less clear over the decades, like in terms of the genre, you know? So I just wanted a song that felt like direct, aggressive, funky, like no BS in the face kind of thing, you know? Please forgive the MIDI sounds. Thank you. Put something in between the notes and the bass line. So now there's a column response. And then there's a counter melody there, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like, in terms of the harmony. So for the second melody, I'll play it on the actual version. So here's the tune. Oh. Weird. It's coming out mono. Yeah, I think it is. That's crazy. I wanted the melody to happen again because I thought it's nice. Let's restate it. What are my options now? It could be anything. If I want to say the melody again, but do something different with it, or not necessarily with it, do something different in the song to make it good.
Have a different instrument play the melody?
Great idea. Thank God I did that. That you said that and I did not do that. There's another thing that I really like is like I said, there was a counter melody before. I I did another counter melody here, but put it like in keyboards and changed the harmony somewhat. There's like, we're in E flat minor, but there's like stuff going on in F major. It starts kind of pentatonic and then it goes to F major, but it feels kind of nice over the E flat, so you can check it out. Very simple. One note on D. So before diving into some other stuff, that counter melody is this, which is kind of weird. So it's not a featured part, it's in the background, the Rhodes is playing it, the Mellotron's playing it, but it at least gives you the feeling as a listener that like something else is happening here, you know? I mean, my favorite thing as a bass player or a part player of anything is like, my least favorite thing, I should say, is when I'm playing a tune and I can't think of what's going to come next because my part is so different from everything that's happened before. And I think if you look at classical music, classical composers are like the best examples of people who understand how to take an idea and just like pull at it and put different things on top of it and kind of separate it, but never introduce like a completely new idea. Like it's all variations on the theme, right? So, especially personality-wise, like in this tune, the bass is playing long, big, fat notes. So for the B section, I don't want more in E flat minor. I want a change in harmony. I want some color because at this point I'm sick of E flat minor. But I don't want anyone to like really go outside of what they've already been doing in the tune. Does that make sense? So I want like a big amount of variation, but not a new idea. So I kind of thought about doing like kind of big moving chords, which would be sounding like this, maybe. Oh, I haven't been to this Logic session in a long time. The song's in E flat minor, now we're kind of in A flat minor, kind of. The chords are kind of moving around. The bass should give you some kind of like idea of how it feels. So this is with bass. 1. Which is that in the A section, the strongest beat of every measure is beat 1. Boom, 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 boom. It's like 1 is huge, and leading up to the chorus, we're just going 1, 1. That's it. So for the B section, I thought it'd be cool to put nothing on one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Bass following the chords and all that stuff. So I liked how that sounded, but I wanted something happening melodically that rhythmically was interesting, because at this point everything's just downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2. So I was thinking, well, it might be interesting to do something with the horns melodically that's like has a lot of momentum, that's not downbeat based, and that actually might be kind of weird rhythmically. So I had this idea. Maybe I'll just play you the voice note if it's not too embarrassing. If it is, it's just going to be embarrassing. Okay. Yeah. Oh. It's not. Well, whatever. I was like in the shower or something, and it was basically like I wanted to do a rhythm that was mixing a duple and tom-tom meter, if you know what I mean when I say that. So like duple would be like a 1 and a 2 and or a 1 and 2 and like triple meter would be second digga or da 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 da. So the idea I had was I didn't have any notes. 1, 2, 3. So the starting swinging, but then the is like triplets. Because the horn section did not have a fun time with this. But so if you do it slowly, it'd be like. So it's like we're mixing and triplets. So when you put it all together, hopefully it doesn't sound bad. Please. 3, 4, 1. Excites me most about most stuff. So even just not having one in that section is really cool for me. If we're going like boom, boom, and then boom, and immediately changes the feeling to me without doing anything remotely complex. The horn line is complex, rhythmically, definitely. If you're coming to the gig the other night, in a couple nights, 2 nights. I'd encourage you to do a thumbs up or thumbs down for the horn section. They'd be very happy to see everybody do that. They're like, man, it's fine, it's close enough. No, close enough. It'll be close enough after I move it in Pro Tools. You know? Which I may have. No, I'm just kidding. But I like this idea of like, you know, sometimes we think we're writing a tune and we're like, what's going to come next? And we think like you have to like, you know, crap out Beethoven's Ninth or something for the bridge to your tune. And it's just really not that complicated. It's really not complicated. Just think, what do I want to hear next? That's my rule, always. When I'm writing, I'm like, sometimes I'll like pretend like I'm enjoying the thing that I'm writing, like, because normally at the moment where I have writer's block, I'm not enjoying myself very much. But I'll like go back a minute or something, and I'll listen to the demo or whatever it is. I'll play what I've been working on, and I'll pretend I'm in the audience, digging it, wow, this is awesome, you know, whatever. And then I just listen right up to the moment where I don't know what should come next. And I just go, what do I want to hear, you know? And it's not going to just appear, but sometimes it'll be as simple as a texture. Like, I just want to hear drums, or I want to hear drums and melody, or I want to hear like a huge, fat keyboard texture, or I want to hear double time, or I want to hear half time, or I want to hear like the snare on one, or like whatever it could be. It could just be one little specific idea, but it will put you, much like we were talking about earlier about success being just like millions of tiny steps. Like the same thing. Maybe that snare on beat 1 says, oh, well, if the snare's on 1, what's going to be on 2? Let's make a decision. And then you're just like on the road to coming up with something cool. So I do that. That's a good, I'm answering a question that wasn't asked and probably no one cares about, but writer's block, you know? I mean, there's some cool devices. That's one of my favorite devices for getting over writer's block. What do I want to hear? If I was in the crowd, what would I want to hear next? And don't be afraid or discouraged if it's not specific. Like if you notice, a lot of the examples I just gave you for ideas are just textures. Snare on 1, big keyboard sound, you know, funky guitar. I haven't said anything about key, notes, rhythm, just the sound, you know? Another good thing to do, if you're looking for like a melody, play the chords over and over and over and over and over and over, and then just stop and do something else that doesn't involve music. So go for a walk, take a shower, read a book, because what's going to happen is like those chords will cycle and cycle and cycle through your head, and anything that you start humming will work over those chords. Unless another thing goes in. We've got a song called Shofukan where at the end we have this section that's going. It's like, I like this bass line, I love the guitar part, you know, there's a harmony going on there, like B minor to D minor, that's like kind of cool. And I couldn't come, I was writing melodies, they all sucked. And it was at Christmas time in the Netherlands, and I went out to get these fried donut balls because I was feeling sorry for myself. And nothing does it like fried donut balls. And I was eating them, they're called oliebollen. If you ever end up in the Netherlands Christmas time, they got these trucks, they're amazing. Sometimes they have raisins. And I was walking back from the oliebollen truck, and I was just humming what became the melody, you know, and it was just like, I was just humming it. And I was like, oh, that's a cool melody. I should put that in a song sometime. And then I got back to sit down and write, and I was like, oh, it's like perfect over the chords. I must be a genius. No, I'm not a genius. I just played the chords for like an hour and a half, you know, and then they just stayed in my head. And then the second that I stopped putting pressure on myself to come up with something brilliant, something appeared, you know? So really, it's just, you know, all this stuff, especially composition, it's just psychology, because I guarantee you, all of you could improve your musicianship 1,000%. Myself, in the all of us, we could improve our musician by 1,000%. But right now, I guarantee that all of you have the musical ability level to write a better song than you've heard in the last 5 years of your life. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about pop radio. I'm talking about like, think about the greatest songs ever written, and think about what ability level was needed to write them. What extensive knowledge of chords was needed to write American Girl by Tom Petty. Like 3 chords. That's such an awesome song. You know what I mean? Or Oh Darling by the Beatles or something like. Did you have to have a PhD in, you know, 17th century counterpoint to write Oh Darling? Like, no way. Like, if you know 6 chords on the guitar, you could write Oh Darling. You know? I'm not encouraging anyone, I'm not saying that to encourage you to not grow as musicians and expand, because the more vocabulary you have, the more knowledge you have, the wider your options and the greater your kind of like your horizon for what you can do. But what I'm saying is the thing that makes a great musician is not how much they know, it's what they do with what they know. And you all, already, I'm sure of it, you all could write one of the greatest songs ever written in the history of humanity. If you were able to take what you know and convert it into a cohesive, well put together, emotional, evocative, visceral, composition. It's easy, right? But that's my struggle. Every time I write a song, that's my struggle. Every time you guys play, I'm sure that's your struggle, you know? It's like, how do I take what I know and put it into a thing that like is just like so right, you know? But you're not just gonna sit down and do it thinking like that. Like, you have to come up with tricks. So for me, the what should come next is a good trick. The leaving the thing and reading a book, going for a walk, taking a bath, whatever, that's a really good trick. Another really good trick, transcribe great songs. Right? Like, the only way that you learn how to speak whatever language you speak is by hearing people speak it, analyzing it, and repeating it back. You know? You have to, I mean, if you want to learn Japanese tomorrow, you don't just go to Japan and then you're just speaking Japanese. Your brain will be analyzing the language, and you'll probably want, what's the word I'm looking for, supplemental material. You'll want to take a class, you'll want a teacher, you'll want to look at the language written down, you want to do all those things. Why would you not do that with music? Right? Take Oh Darling, sit down with it. How many verses are there? What's the order? Like verse, bridge, chorus, what? How does that work? Are there modulations? What's the relation between the melody and the chords on the choruses? Right? When you told me, you know, when you sing, it's like, that's a thing when he goes to the chorus. Right? Is that the chorus? What would you call the chorus of Oh Darling? Is it the Oh Darling part? No, it's the other part, right? It's the part where he doesn't say Oh Darling. Right? Yeah. So I would call that the chorus. But you notice that all of a sudden, there's this huge amount of space between where the melody is and where the melody was. Right? And just analyze those things. And then just be shameless. Be shameless and write a song that is a complete copy of Oh Darling. And do not record it and do not release it. Write it. You know what I mean? Write it, and although a lot of people have written copies of pre-existing songs, they did fine, Robin Thicke, right? You know what I'm saying? Did alright. They lost that suit, right? Did you lose that lawsuit? Good. I mean, I would have been happy with a better version of the Marvin Gaye song, but it was definitely not. So I mean, think about it like that. Like, create some fakes. Create some copies in your little workstations. You know? Because at the very least, you're just going to learn a lot about like why great songs are great songs. And then apply 1/100th of what you just learned to one of your own songs. Just use the same form. You know, there's a very good possibility that Oh Darling and Enter Sandman have the exact same form. Really, I don't know, I haven't analyzed them, but it's very possible that it's like intro, verse, chorus, 2 verses, bridge. Write a form like that, you know, or write a song where the chorus starts on a certain chord and the verse starts on a certain chord, like one of your favorite songs. Like, just steal those 2 chords and see what path that leads you down. You know, my favorite composer, Igor Stravinsky, said, "Good composers borrow, great composers steal." I love that, you know, because we do. I mean, you're never gonna come up. I'm never gonna write anything unique, you know, but I don't want to say like that. I'm never going to write, I'm not going to discover a new chord. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do anything that's like that revolutionizes the way that people think of music, and probably no one ever will, because those things have already been done. There's 12 notes on the piano, there's a lot more notes on like a Turkish bağlama, but you know, but even though they have done so much with those notes, but what you can do is recognize that you are unique. Every individual in this room and on earth is unique. We all have our fingerprints. And the thing that kind of makes us unique is the way that we take information in and put it out. We're all speaking English in here, I would guess. But probably, if you have a good friend in the room, if you saw a transcription of a conversation, you would know whether it was me speaking or your friend. Because we use the language, the same language, in different ways. Right? So, what I can do as a musician is express my uniqueness, as in the way that I take in information and output it using the exact same vocabulary that every musician has used. 12 notes, chords, rhythms, melodies, this kind of thing. And that's what makes you unique, is your sense of taste. Oh, I don't like that voicing. whereas the person next to you might love that voicing. You know what I mean? So don't get super bogged down by like feeling like you have to reinvent things every time you write something. You know, just get carried away like having fun with stuff, I think. That answer was not even But I think all that stuff is important. I think all that stuff is really important. And it raises a lot of like philosophical questions that you should all ask yourselves about who you are, what you want to do, what is music, what is art, what's the purpose of it. You know what I mean? At least I'm asking those questions